Hello, everybody, and welcome to another My Music. Now, just as I was about to start there, I could hear, hopefully you can't because the microphone's not that sensitive, my dog snoring away in the background. It's obviously hibernation time for sausage dogs, which is important because they're only tiny animals with fairly thin skins, and, you know, they need to stay hibernated as much as possible during these cold months. But that's got nothing to do with music. However, my guest today is coming all the way from, where are you coming from?
From Suffolk,
From
far
Suffolk.
east of the UK.
Well, I was going to say, but it almost looks far easty in terms of everything that you've got going on there. And you've got this wonderful headpiece on as well, which we will have to talk about in a minute.
We will.
The lights in the background almost making it look like you are in Jules Holland's studio for later with Jules Holland, which is maybe a dream of yours in the future. Maybe by later this year that might happen for you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Now, I found you, like I find a lot of the artists that I get onto here, via the wonderful Instagram, where you just kind of popped out with all these amazing outfits on, and then this sound, which is, and I used it just a minute ago, enchanting, beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
What started you down this journey of making the music that you make?
Well, I've always been a songwriter my whole life. Even when I was a baby or a toddler, I was in the pram just singing random melodies to myself. And my grandma had it on tape at the time, which is really, really cute to listen back to. I've always had an affinity to melodic writing. I don't know whether it was influenced by the fact that my dad listened to classical music every weekend in his music listening room, and I used to drift off to sleep with those sounds in the background, so obviously seeped into my subconscious. And yeah, have grown up with a lot of music listening. So it's always been something that I've gravitated towards. But in terms of the bohemian, ethereal world, that developed, I guess, since the age of about 18. I realized that I didn't want to look like everybody else. I didn't want to be conventional. I wanted to forge my own unique path. And I've always loved classic literature, poetry, fantasy, films like The Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland. I've just always been obsessed with them. I think it's that form of escapism that you get living in this fantastical imaginary world. And I guess with my music, I seek to recreate that and escape within my own musical universe. And hopefully people that listen to my music and watch my music videos also feel that way.
Absolutely, we do. Absolutely, we do. Do you know,
Great.
right, listen, I hate to put onto people inspirations and connections and whatever, partly because you are, especially when people are so clearly their own identity, and you're so clearly doing what you're doing, right, in a completely different way, where the look and everything did take me, and kind of some of the connection to sort of the way that you make music, I feel, or the way that you are making music, and also that kind of connection to the earth, and kind of making sure that we kind of understand where we're from and all of that sort of thing, which I get from your post, was Natasha Khan, Bat for Lashes. Is that someone that you would ever see a connection there?
I can definitely see that. Bat for Lashes, I know her one song, is it Let's Get Lost?
Right. Yeah.
I know that song, but she's actually not an artist that I've listened to much, but I know of that one song. And a lot of people also say in a similar vein, Kate Bush, which again is an artist I admire, but I never listened to much of growing up. She's an artist that I discovered more so when I went to music university. And I find that really interesting, how people can sense a similarity with other artists, but me myself not actually necessarily listening to those artists growing up. It's a cool thing that people can kind of discover similar paths musically and creatively, but they may not have necessarily consumed that artist's material directly and consciously.
I think it's brilliant. And I think it's part of actually what makes being a an art is so interesting as well is that once you do your art, once you create your art and you put it out there into the world, you know, it's obviously then being received by people that have had a different path and you know have you know found their own way within music, and then you start to. I feel like a lot of artists find next places in their path from probably where they intersect with their listeners, you know, as well. When people
you go on a journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's a journey, isn't it? So tell me, who has inspired you then?
Well, in terms of musical artists, probably the main songwriters have been Paul McCartney and John Lennon. I love the Beatles so much. I love that they tackle all sorts of genres within their sound, but they still make it uniquely them. And that's something I try and achieve in my music, because I am influenced by a number of different genres and styles, and in terms of my lyrics. And I don't necessarily want to pigeonhole my genre too much in one place. Yes, obviously it's important to make sure you're kind of viable within the market or what have you, but I want it to be genre blending and genre bending. And I feel like the Beatles have been such inspiration for me on that front. I also love the likes of Radiohead in terms of their more moody, atmospheric soundscapes. Also Jeff Buckley, I absolutely love his voice. I think he must be one of my favorite voices in pop rock. Soundgarden is another band that my partner Orlando, who I write and produce my music with, he absolutely loved growing up. So he introduced me to them, going down a harmonic journey that you don't necessarily expect. I absolutely love that when it comes to songwriting. I don't like it so much when you listen to a song and you just know what's coming next. Obviously, sometimes it works. If it is a classic anthem, then of course that's great. But sometimes in pop, you hear songs that are just so predictable. I really strive not to make music like that. Also, I love Muse. Again, harmonically, really interesting, kind of similar to Radiohead in terms of the moody atmosphere that is created. And lastly, I also love electronica, especially this group called Boards of Canada, who are more atmospheric, but I also love dance music too. And in some of my productions, I think I am a bit influenced by techno or house beats, not necessarily in terms of the sound of the drum kits or the samples we use, but in terms of like the pumping groove that you get. So yeah, a whole range of influences.
It's really interesting. Again, from my perspective, it's really interesting hearing you give those influences out, because as you were talking and through the majority of those, I was thinking these are mainly male voices.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. Does your ear naturally gravitate towards a male voice more than a female's?
I haven't really thought about it, but actually seemingly so. Yeah, I think as well with my singing voice, I have quite a low range. So maybe I just naturally gravitate towards male voices because my range is kind of similar. Yes, I can sing high, but it's in more of the falsetto tone rather than like chest belting. So maybe, yeah, I'm just sensing more of a similarity there, and that's why I gravitate towards it.
Yeah. It's fascinating, isn't it, when you start delving into it?
Yeah, you start kind of peeling apart things.
What about this look? Right, which is tremendous, by the way. How did you start putting that together? Was it, you know, was there like one thing in particular that sort of like made you go, right, I'm going to start with this and work a way out, or you know, did you always just like dressing up?
Yeah, well, firstly, yes, I always did like dressing up growing up. And also I've always loved fairy tales. So yeah, the kind of princess thing, but turning it on its head. So it's a bit more dark and possibly gothic. I think it all started with just my personal style and its evolution. When I became a teenager, I just started experimenting with different outfits. I've always loved bohemian patterns. That's something that I've always been attracted to. But I think, you know, when you turn 18 and you're much more independent, you're going shopping. I was hanging out a lot in Camden, and I was just inspired by all of the different styles I was seeing and absorbed that. And I just started finding unique, one of a kind, bespoke pieces. I started to stop buying from the mainstream brands and start going to charity shops and thrift stores with my friends. And there you can find, these one-off pieces that you can't see other people wearing. And I just absolutely love that. Also, I went on an amazing trip to India with my best friends, and the styles there are just insane. I love the patchwork sari patterns, colors, materials, so exquisite. So yeah, as the years went on, I started buying slightly higher end, more kind of designed pieces that either I'd find on my travels, or Etsy is a really good platform for that because you can find these bespoke designers who sell on there. So yeah, I didn't kind of sit down and think, right, I need to look cool. How am I going to do it? It's more that my personal style developed as I became a teenager, 18 plus, and then it just kind of absorbed into my brand world with my music.
Yeah, it's interesting. When you were talking, I was thinking back to some of the adverts that were kind of out in the 90s in particular, where people were, especially around things like home furnishings and whatever. We won't mention any names, but where people were going, oh, it's designer, and you know, you need to go and visit this massive warehouse of a building to get your designer goods and whatever. And yet people were like completely taken in by it, thinking, well, you know, I'm buying designer, yet like everybody's got it in their home. How can it possibly be designer, right?
Yeah,
you know,
it's the marketing ploy.
It's very, very clever. Yeah, I mean, if you want to look individual, if you want to stand out in a crowd, if you want to, you know, have a sense of individuality, then you've actually got to be very brave and do what everybody else isn't doing, not what everybody else is doing. Right?
It's so true, and I like to think that if you're jumping on trends, you're already too late because you're following a trend that's already been created by somebody else. Why not start the next trend?
Yeah, absolutely. And if it doesn't become a trend, you don't care anyway, because it's your thing. Yeah. Have you ever worn that headpiece down Camden? That I'd like to know.
I have when I've performed in Camden, because whenever I perform live, I always wear a headdress. Obviously, I have to choose the right one so it's not too heavy and it gives me a massive headache by the end of the night. But this one that I'm wearing now is actually quite light, so it is one of my preferred ones for performing in. But yeah, I don't care. It's like when Orlando, my partner, and we film music videos all around. So we're living in Suffolk at the moment, and there are so many amazing natural spots and also kind of decaying churches and ruined castles. So perfect for me. But Orlando sometimes gets a bit self-conscious if there are people around, you know, walking their dogs or whatever. But I literally don't care. I'll be lip syncing, doing all of my dances, literally doing whatever. And I don't think people mind. In fact, I think they're just quite curious and intrigued.
I was going to say, have you got any great stories, like someone, you know, like someone old out walking their dog or whatever, coming up and going, oh, what you doing, my dear? You know.
Oh yeah, a lot. Well, one time, this is for my second most recent single, Dark Prophecy, we found these amazing burial mounds somewhere in Cambridgeshire, or maybe it was Essex, can't remember. And we climbed up one of them and it seemed pretty deserted. Orlando was just setting up the camera and I was just putting on the headdress. And then as soon as we stood up, this older couple were also on top of the mound with us, and they must have been 80 plus. When we were finished and we stood up on the mound, we just saw this couple standing right by us, and the staircase was really, really dodgy. So I was impressed that they managed to get up there. Bearing in mind it was peak summer, there were weeds everywhere on the staircase, my dress was getting caught as I was going up and down, and we were explaining to them what we were up to. They were really intrigued and they kind of misunderstood. They thought we were preparing for a concert which was going to take place on top of the mound, and bless them, they were like, oh, here are our contact details, please get in touch when the performance is happening, like we're so excited to watch you perform up here.
Oh, bless
them.
But that's also lovely.
Yeah, it was so sweet and nice that they were really on board And also, there was actually another time which was kind of serendipitous because with each music video we film, we have to find all of these epic locations. And eventually, we're going to run out of places to visit, especially in the near vicinity. One time we were filming for another music video called Stolen Faces, and we were at this. Again, it was a Roman fort. So, yeah, lots of Roman history here. And we were filming and it was a lovely day. And all of a sudden, a random dog walker appeared and just came up to me and said, listen, you guys need to visit this spot. And didn't even say like, hi, how are you or anything. It was almost like the universe had just given him this message to come and tell us. And the spot he told us about, we ended up visiting for our following music video. And it was absolutely perfect for the vibe we were going for.
Wow. That's a story, isn't it?
Yeah, very divine encounter. Yeah,
absolutely. Now you've got some great kit in the background behind you there.
Yes, lots of equipment.
Yeah. What's the weirdest bit of equipment that you used in a song so far?
Well, I mean, I don't know if you'd say any of this stuff is weird per se, but we use a lot of analog equipment. Orlando's parents are musicians too. Cool. And when they were working, they had a studio in Soho. So very luckily, Orlando has inherited a number of the pieces of gear. So around this side, you can't see at the moment, is a Moog synthesizer, the Mini Moog, which is such a classic synth, and we've used that so many times in our recording. So it's nice kind of channeling the energy through the generations, if you will, like coming up with songs and producing our own records, but akin to how Orlando's parents would have been too. And it must be really nice for them to see that in action with us.
That's cool. Now, the only thing about all of those old synths and everything like that is, and why a lot of musicians stopped taking them on the road is A, they used to break down.
Oh, yeah.
All of the time. And B, they're quite heavy. So when you do stuff live, will he be using, are you using all of this old stuff, or are you now using like, virtual instruments on a laptop or whatever and connecting it to a controller keyboard sort of thing?
Yeah, we have to use equipment that's more suited in terms of the practicality. So Orlando's the guitarist, so he usually brings 2 guitars to switch it up because a number of our songs are in baritone tuning, so It just makes sense having the second guitar. And he's got his kind of epic pedal board, which is wider than some keyboards, pretty crazy, with all of his gubbins on. He's obsessed with all of that kind of stuff. And then for me, when I'm performing as Gabrielle Ornate, I usually just sing and dance with the mic. So I'm not playing an instrument necessarily, although I have played on the keyboard before, and I've got a Nord Electro. So yeah, I love that. And it's so practical and just suited to modern live performance. And then we also play with a drummer and a bassist, but sometimes we've done kind of acoustic stripped back duo things if it's been kind of festival performances in nature, or just kind of music hangouts that have been much more natural.
What's on your agenda then for the rest of 2026? What are you hoping to do that you haven't done previously?
I'm hoping to perform at some more festivals, to be honest. I've had some great experiences so far because I've done quite a lot for the local BBC Introducing here in Suffolk, and they had me play on the BBC Introducing stage at Brighton the Corners Festival, which was really, really fun. And I've done a kind of live lounge-esque thing in the Suffolk studio, but I'm hoping to do some more either local festivals or other festivals around the country. Also, as a side note, I'm meant to be going on tour in February, but it's kind of a side project that Orlando and I are involved with, but that's going to be a really great experience anyway. We're doing 10 shows across 14 days. So wow. Going to be pretty intense, but so fulfilling and such an adventure. And then also just carrying on writing and producing more music. I feel like with each song that I do, I'm honing in on my craft even more and just refining what it is exactly that I'm all about, what Gabrielle Ornate is all about.
So as you get into 2027 next year, you probably really kind of have honed this down and know exactly where you're going with that for the following year, won't you?
Yeah, and I absolutely love touring, so it would be amazing to get on some great support slots.
Who wouldn't want you to be on the support slot with them?
Thank you.
Who would you pick if you could pick anybody at the moment that's out there touring? Who would you pick to support?
Good question. Because I guess I'd want to support someone that's compatible but isn't exactly the same. So the audiences would kind of be intrigued by me and not just like, oh, it's another one of these types of people. Although I hope that I'm not an identikit type person anyway. I'm thinking, someone like Wolf Alice, I think would be pretty cool. Because she's really dreamy as an individual, but then the band have a lot of balls and a lot of attitude. And I think my music also has a lot of attitude. So I think there could be some compatibility there. Sometimes with my music, it can be a bit heavier. And sometimes songs like Stolen Faces, Phantasm, people have sometimes said, oh, that kind of sounds a bit metally. And if I were to go down that route, possibly, maybe like Muse.
Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in today to talk a little bit about your music. I really do hope that people take the time now to go and investigate what it is that you do a little bit more. But thank you so much for coming on. Folks.
Thank you.
Do go and check out the music of Gabrielle Ornate. If you like it, stop and say hello to her on Instagram and tell her why as well. And add it to a playlist. That's very, very important indeed. We will be back soon with more of my music, but until then, from Gabrielle and myself, bye for now.
Bye.